Hello, and here I am at World Hydrogen Week in Copenhagen with Devan Pillay, who is the Sector President for Heavy Industries at Schneider Electric. Welcome, Devan.
Hi, Lyn. Thank you, and happy to be here.
So what brings you to World Hydrogen Week, and tell us a little bit about the importance of hydrogen to you?
So this is the third year in running that we've been present at World Hydrogen Week. Being a company that is at the center of the sustainability movement and being voted as the most sustainable company in the world 3 years in succession, we've decided that the transition technologies and sustainable technologies are our vector for growth and focus. Green hydrogen is for us at the epicenter of this transition, and we want to be part of that process. And we feel right now that from a hype of this industry, this event this week has really separated the boys from the men, if I put it that way, with respect to the emphasis on companies with the endurance, companies with the technology and the aptitude and the expertise to be able to have this long range, play the long game, as it were. And we're proud to be associated with the event again this year.
Okay, that's great. So yes, really, we're starting to see things happen out there in the market, and we need people to make it happen. So the green hydrogen business, we know, has both challenges and opportunities. I mean, where do you see both sides of it?
Right. So the opportunities are clear. It is an energy source that we feel will find its natural space in this transition, particularly because of the fact that as we look at the energy consumption behaviors of our customers, and as I said in the introduction, we're part of the heavy industries segment. And heavy industries, by definition, are electro-intensive industries that are demanding huge amounts of power. So to be able to have green electrons to this magnitude, green hydrogen happens to be one of those major energy sources that supports this energy glut, not only from electro-intensive industries, but also data centers, as an example, which again looks at significant power reliability, but also the scale of power that is required to power hyperscale, AI-centered data centers, large language model data centers. The power consumption requirements are pretty intensive.
Yes, we're hearing this a lot, obviously, more and more. And where do you see that demand playing out around the world, specifically for the data centers?
Right. So it's typically, in areas that are concentrated where there's obviously a lot of cloud computing, but we see quite a ubiquitous, spread of investments across the world. Naturally, it's in most of the centers where you have a high level of maturity of users, right? So it's typically US, Europe, Asia, Middle East, Africa. And the data center companies are acutely aware of their obligation to procure green electrons to power their data centers. It's a big, component of their investment and their operating costs. And as a consequence, it gets that level of scrutiny out in the market as well. So they have to be responsible with respect to the type of energy sources that they are investing in. And we see movements right now from the data center hyperscale companies making investments actually upstream as well. So, having assets in terms of the power asset as well, not only on the data side. So really securing their investments and the tenure of their investment as far as data centers are concerned by procuring power assets and green power assets. And of course, green hydrogen being one of those as well.
So across this new green hydrogen value chain, let's call it, where do you see Schneider Electric really making the contributions?
And that's something that, I myself was wondering about prior to this event. And I think it's kind of cemented in my mind exactly where we have a role to play. Now, when you look at the operation and the actual architecture of a green hydrogen system, you've got process and you've got power. And of course, you've got green power coming from renewable sources to power up the electrolyzer. And then in that electrolyzer process in itself, there's a whole lot of automation that goes on. And typically Schneider Electric, can be involved in both those segments or those universes. However, with the combination of some of our software like EcoStruxure, Process and Power, which combines the process side and the power side almost seamlessly. And it certainly gives the designers and the developers the opportunity to right-size the design of the process plant and the power side, because it works kind of in unison with one another, and without being able to compromise on understanding this much later on in the build phase. So you can actually simulate the process and power side, have your digital twin, input certain simulations of how this plant will perform, because considering the fact that it's a renewable energy source that's dependent on weather, it's dependent on solar capacity and all of that. So the production of hydrogen is integrally associated with the availability and the uptime of energy. So all of the software and process, and that's pretty much our mainstream of where Schneider Electric has solutions in both those spheres. But beyond the product and the technology, it is actually the capacity of the team and the expertise of the team. Because we're trailblazing a path here. It's not a known technology that has had years of track record. So, we're building knowledge base, we're learning a lot, and these events help us quite a bit to bring this, accumulated knowledge to bear. And we've got this team that is able to offer confidence to our partners, whether it be process OEMs, end customers, process licenses, to be able to thread together this capability and the technology to offer this, this added value, unique value to the customer.
It's a very complex ecosystem, all in all. And can you talk at all about any current or upcoming projects that you're specifically involved in?
Yeah. We've seen right now that even though there's a filtering out of this large-scale hype projects, we've filtered on a number of them right now, many of them in Asia, of course in the US, in Middle East, working very closely on different phases. So as I mentioned, a large portion of our focus is getting involved in the pre-design phase. So at inception of the project, getting involved at early stages, being able to optimize the design so that the entire cost cycle is the TOTEX aspect is covered. And then the levelized cost of hydrogen becomes quite equitable with other energy sources. So that's the sweet spot of where we'd like to be involved. But we've been involved in other phases as well of a project cycle. And because of the capacity of Schneider, from a project's execution perspective, from a design and engineering point of view, we're getting involved in multiple phases of these projects in different parts of the world.
So given all of this that you've seen out there, needing to be developed, or solutions that you've provided, could you give us your latest green hydrogen industry insights for the benefit of the audience?
Yeah, thank you. Look, I think it's, as I said, it's an energy source that without doubt has a space and a place to play in this energy transition. The challenges that we're experiencing right now are no different to some of the other technologies that are a lot more embedded. And when you look at the cycle of how this has evolved, for example, on renewables, on wind, on solar, for example, all had similar kind of trajectories. So I think we're in this phase right now of a normalized state. And I believe that the technology is evolving at a rapid rate. I believe AI has a significant role to play in being able to optimize design, to be able to get time to market, to scale projects. We need policy. We need policy to support that, because as I mentioned, the project's database, or the actual hopper of project opportunities prior to some political maneuvers, was quite significant. And then based on changes with political appetite, that has somewhat been simmered down. I think personally that given the 3 or 4 factors, one being offtake agreements being in place, 2, the actual cost of the technology, the ability to scale, and of course the policy, this is kind of the 3 or 4 items that are necessary for the success of green hydrogen for the future.
Great, and let's hoping we get there. So Devan, thank you so much for your insight today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure, Lyn. Thank you. Thanks for your time.